Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. Welcome back to the channel here on YouTube.com. As of course you already know who I am, Mr. Controversy, and the operator of the best damn Twitter handle known to mankind. I didn't really want to waste all my energy on my intro because every single time that I press record, the first things that you hear out of my mouth are me yelling what I just said moments ago. So I actually wanted to start off in a little bit more of a calm tone, because I'm going to be yelling and ranting later on in this program, so to speak. Certainly been a crazy week for professional wrestling. A lot of good and a lot of bad. And I'm here to go over it all, and I got some reports going into Hell in a Cell tomorrow. Monday Night Raw. We're going to start off with Raw and the weekly show reviews here on the Lightning Flash update. Monday Night Raw was terrible, as per usual. Was I expecting anything less? No. Were you expecting anything less? I mean, I'm assuming that the people with brains weren't expecting anything less. First of all, Raw's got a new set, and it's horrible. I can't tell if I'm watching a wrestling show or if I'm waiting for Tony Hawk to compete in the next skateboarding tournament. It's ridiculous. A skateboarding ramp is the new stage for the flagship show in the WWE. So right off the bat, it was a bad impression. However, the start of the show was actually fantastic. The start of the show was actually intense. It actually had purpose. It actually had meaning. It actually had a sense of intrigue. We didn't know what was going to happen next. Rey Mysterio kicked off the show, and he was thanking his son for giving him the strength and giving him the courage to stay in the WWE, and now he's fighting for the Universal title later on in the show. Lesnar and Heyman interrupted, and within 10 seconds, we get an F5 to Rey Mysterio. Lesnar took out Mysterio with F5 after F5, and then he turned his attention to Rey Mysterio's son. And I'm thinking to myself at this point, they're not going to do this, are they? And they did. Lesnar grabbed Rey Mysterio's son by his neck, threw him over the barricade onto the floor outside the ring, picked him up, threw him into the LED post, threw him into the ring. He started suplexing him, then he started suplexing Mysterio, then he suplexed Dominic again. I thought this was awesome. I thought this was amazing. This was one of the best starts to Monday Night Raw all year. It had meaning, it had intensity, it had purpose, it had intrigue. WWE started off the show pretty damn good. And then what did WWE do? Took a nosedive. It's just like when you make a paper airplane and you know a paper airplane is shitty. When you throw a paper airplane and it doesn't glide, it just takes a nosedive right down to the ground. That was WWE. Raw was the paper airplane that you made incredibly shitty, and instead of gliding, took a nosedive right into the ground. That was Monday Night Raw. We had a great open, not gonna lie. The open was fantastic, but after that, things really went downhill. Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss. This match went 4 minutes. 4 minutes with Becky Lynch on commentary, and Sasha Banks won after she kicked Alexa Bliss in the leg. Alexa Bliss is fucking terrible, whether she's a babyface or whether she's a heel. She is one of the worst wrestlers in the WWE, and it doesn't matter what anyone says, Alexa Bliss will always be one of the worst wrestlers in the WWE. The match was a waste of time. 4 minutes of nothing. Then we get a brawl between Banks and Becky Lynch. Sasha Banks retreated to the crowd. Becky Lynch promised retribution at Hell in a Cell, and that was pretty much that. It was made for the purpose of simply selling the match between Becky and Sasha inside Hell in a Cell at Hell in a Cell. Then we actually got into a good tag team title match for the Raw tag team titles. It was Rude and Ziggler versus Heavy Machinery. I love Heavy Machinery, but I don't understand why they're getting a Raw tag team title opportunity. Now, no matter how good it was, and it was a good tag team match, but at the same point in time, Heavy Machinery, they haven't been featured on television in 2 months, and then they actually just lost to Rude and Ziggler in that tag team gauntlet match. They were taken off television, and now they're back competing for the tag team titles. A little logic would be nice. But it was a good tag team match for what it was, I'm not going to lie. Rude and Ziggler were on the defense at the beginning portions of this match. Heavy Machinery was in control before the first commercial break. We come back from commercial, and Tucker is being worked on by Dolph Ziggler. He makes the tag to Otis. Otis lights up Bobby Roode, or Robert Roode. We then had a spinning scoop slam to Dolph Ziggler. We had a double caterpillar, and they were going for the compactor, but Ziggler came in, swooped in out of nowhere, hit the zigzag on Tucker. We had a super kick on Otis, and Otis was driven into the LED post on the far right side of the ring. Then we had a super kick, glorious DDT combo to Tucker. Rude and Ziggler retain the Raw Tag Team titles. Good match for what it was. Champions look strong. That's really all I could have asked for, and that was pretty much that. Decent 11-minute tag team match for the tag team titles. Rude and Ziggler look strong. Do we get a tag team title match at Hell in a Cell? Probably not. Probably not, because they haven't built up anyone. Unless you count the Viking Raiders, or the War Raiders, or the Viking War Raiding Experience. But I'll talk about that once we get to the tag team match between the Viking Raiders and the OC later on. Miz TV with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. We had a nice back and forth between Hogan and Flair. Obviously, when Ric Flair has a microphone, it's the funniest fucking thing on earth. No doubt about it. We then get an announcement by The Miz that it's going to be Team Hogan versus Team Flair at Crown Jewel. Hogan selected Rollins as the team captain, so WWE pretty much told us, without actually telling us, that Seth Rollins is going to be losing the Universal title to The Fiend. Then on top of that, Flair selected Orton. Corbin then came out, he attacked Seth Rollins before the match with Orton was about to start. They were going to have an impromptu match between Rollins and Orton, and then Corbin came out and attacked Seth Rollins alongside Randy Orton. Rusev came out to make the save, and then Rusev challenged Seth Rollins to a Universal title match. And if there's one thing that I genuinely hope will come with the draft, I genuinely hope WWE will stop with this advertisement switcheroo shit that they got going on. WWE always does this. They advertise something, whether it be a match or a segment, and then during the show, they pull the old switcheroo and they do something completely different. They pull a 180 and they give you something completely unrelated to what they originally had scheduled. Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins was the plan for a week, and then they took Rey Mysterio out, and they made Brock Lesnar look like a beast, don't get me wrong, but they took Rey Mysterio out. You insert Rusev into the mix when Rusev's only been back 2 weeks, and he hasn't done anything to prove to you that he deserves a Universal title match. And on top of all that, the match didn't even go 10 minutes. Universal title match on the season premiere of Monday Night Raw didn't even go 10 minutes. You're wasting your time on a worthless Miz TV segment with Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, just to promote a Survivor Series-like tag team match at Crown Jewel, when in reality, you don't even need a Survivor Series match at Crown Jewel, and you should have just waited until Survivor Series to actually do something like this. Don't get me wrong, it's better than Hogan and Flair actually competing in the ring, but at the same point in time, it's worthless. It's absolutely worthless. I can only hope for a decent show. But then again, we haven't had a decent Saudi show since the Greatest Royal Rumble. This is the 4th Saudi show of this 8-year deal, or 10-year deal. We got 8 years left. We had an Authors of Pain hype package, and I actually like what they're doing with ALP, and I like the fact that they're bringing them back. Why? Because they need tag teams. Speaking of tag teams, we had another match between the Viking Raiders and the OC. Some season premiere, some new era when you're giving me a match that was seen last week, no matter how decent it was. And this was a decent tag team match. But at the same point in time, we've seen it already. The War Raiders, or the Viking Raiders, whatever the fuck you want to call them, were in control for the beginning portions of this match until Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson, they maintained control coming back from commercial. We had Eric, I believe it was, he was lighting up Carl Anderson with a strike combination before Carl Anderson come down with a spine buster. They were going to go for the Magic Killer, but Eric fought out of it. He hit a suicide dive, and he took out Carl Anderson. Back in the ring, he hit a power slam on Luke Gallows, but it was like a modified power slam. I think it was like a Saito suplex side slam. And then made the tag to Ivar, and Ivar did a huge splash. The Viking Raiders defeated the OC. I can't complain that the Viking Raiders won, because I hate fucking 50-50 booking. But at the same point in time, we've seen this match already, and now the Viking Raiders, they remain undefeated, but yet they still don't have a Raw Tag Team title match. And I also said this last week. How funny is it that we had not one, but two tag team matches on Raw, each getting a decent amount of time? WWE right now is playing a game of Simon Says with AEW. AEW says, push tag team wrestling. What does WWE do? They push tag team wrestling. And also on NXT, the Street Profits versus the Undisputed Era in the main event, that was not by coincidence. That was clearly done as a shot towards AEW, because AEW is saying that they have the best tag team division in the world. Triple H is like, no. We're putting tag team wrestling in the main event, and we're giving you a fucking great match between the Street Profits and the Undisputed Era. It's funny how NXT is only continuing to get better, but yet Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live continuously get worse. I don't know. Ricochet and Cesaro. What is this, the fourth time now that they faced off? Wow. So special, so exciting, so fresh and so new for the season premiere of Monday Night Raw. Not one, not two, not three, but 4 times. Ricochet and Cesaro. Ricochet wins in less than 3 minutes. That's all these guys are worth to WWE. 3 minutes. We had a Firefly Funhouse in which Rambling Rabbit died. And Rambling Rabbit actually died twice in 1 week. He died here, and Bray Wyatt was like, oh well, and he tossed him to the side. Probably the most savage thing I've ever seen Bray Wyatt do. Bray Wyatt, he described Hell in a Cell to his friends. Bray Wyatt actually faked out confronting The Fiend. He goes, I'm gonna talk to The Fiend, and I'm gonna tell him to be nice to Seth Rollins. And then he goes, just kidding, see you in hell. And that was the Firefly Funhouse. AJ Styles versus Cedric Alexander for the United States Championship. This was a very good match. I love this match. I think that these two work very well together, and it's a fucking shame that these two weren't given another 10 more minutes. AJ Styles and Cedric Alexander, they brawled for about 2 minutes before they went to commercial. AJ Styles took out Cedric with a forearm to the outside. Back in the ring, Cedric hit the Neuralizer, and he hit a detonation kick for a close 2 count. Cedric was able to hit a Michinoku driver, and then he went for the lumbar check. But AJ Styles reversed it. He did a sunset flip and reversed it into a Styles clash. So fluid, connected perfectly. AJ Styles retains the United States title in a very good match. Do we see this again? I don't think so. I don't think we see this again at the pay-per-view. I don't think that we need to see this again at the pay-per-view, and it wouldn't really make much sense after Cedric Alexander lost to AJ Styles in 2 separate United States Championship matches. Doesn't make sense. Lacey Evans defeated Natalya. I didn't even watch the match. You have Lacey Evans and Natalya on the season premiere of Monday Night Raw, but you can't give me an extra 10 minutes to Cedric Alexander and AJ Styles. This is the season premiere. Cedric Alexander and AJ Styles, they don't even get 10 minutes, but yet Lacey Evans and Natalya are taking up time from matches that should actually be focused on. You're telling me you couldn't have given 5 more minutes to the Raw Tag Team title match? You couldn't have given me 10 more minutes to the United States Championship match? You couldn't have given me a main event actually worth watching? You had to give me the same old stereotypical WWE bullshit. Lacey Evans defeating Natalya. Who gives a shit? Paul Heyman was interviewed saying that Lesnar is in fight mode, to blame the WWE for bringing Lesnar to Monday Night Raw when he's in fight mode. Says that Lesnar will beat Kofi and become the WWE Champion at SmackDown Live on Friday on Fox. Rusev versus Seth Rollins. This didn't even go 10 minutes, and it was interrupted when Bobby Lashley, yes, Bobby Lashley returned after a 2-month hiatus for Lana to come out. Rusev's wife, yes, Lana comes out, and they dry hump and make out with each other on stage as Rusev watches, and then The Fiend interrupts the match interrupts the entire match and the entire segment, attacks Seth Rollins, and that's how they go off the air. How many times have we seen The Fiend do that now? 4 weeks. We've seen The Fiend do that 4 weeks in a row now. What's so special about it anymore? What's so special about this? What's so exciting about it anymore? The Fiend needs to win at Hell in a Cell. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Fiend needs to win. What's even more pathetic is I actually saw someone trying to defend the ending of Monday Night Raw. Trying to defend how Bobby Lashley and Lana could actually result in something interesting. When has WWE made a real-life incident between a husband and a wife or a boyfriend and a girlfriend interesting when they bring it onto television and make it an on-screen drama story? Other than Edge, Matt Hardy, and Lita, outside of that love triangle, what other love storyline in the modern-day WWE has actually resulted in something decent? The answer is nothing. None. Absolutely none. No love storyline between any real-life couple bringing their drama onto the screen that is Raw or SmackDown has resulted in something meaningful. After we got that fucking horrendous storyline with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins defending both their titles at fucking Extreme Rules against Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin, we don't need another one. This is just as worse, if not worse. This is just as worse, if not worse. Bobby Lashley, one of the most uncharismatic, one of the most boring wrestlers that WWE has employed right now, a guy that would better be suited on the unemployment line than an actual role on television, making out with Rusev's real-life wife in front of him during a Universal title match, a world title match in the main event of a season premiere on WWE's flagship show. I don't understand how anyone can look at this and pretty much give it a pass. Outside of a couple decent tag team matches, a great opener, and a very good US title match, the show was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. 3 or 4 good highlights does not make a decent show. And if anyone's going to tell me that it does for some people, well then those people don't deserve to be anywhere near professional wrestling, and those people are absolute dumb fucks with low standards. You cannot tell me that this was a decent show. If you are going to try and tell me that this was a decent show, you're an absolute dumb fuck, and you don't deserve to even utter a word about anything professional wrestling related. AEW. Finally, something that I can sink my teeth into and not complain and complain and complain over and over again. AEW Dynamite. What a fucking show. This right here is a wrestling show done right. This is how you book a professional wrestling program. No fucking lame-ass drama storylines. No fucking recycled matches over and over again, week in and week out. Strictly professional wrestling with storylines that make sense and superstars that the crowd want to see. Show was fantastic. Was it perfect? No. But then again, what show is ever perfect nowadays? Every show has its flaws. It doesn't matter whether it's AEW, Raw, NXT, SmackDown, 205 Live, NXT UK. Every show has flaws. No show is a picture-perfect 10 out of 10. I loved NXT TakeOver New York from earlier this year, but even that wasn't a picture-perfect show. It was the best show that WWE has put on all year, without a shadow of a doubt, but it wasn't a picture-perfect show. I don't think I've ever seen a picture-perfect show in my life, as it relates to professional wrestling specifically. But Dynamite, they came out of the gates hot for the very first week. And you know something? Next week, it is only going to get better. It is really only going to get better. And by the way, they murdered NXT. Dynamite murdered NXT. Dynamite drew in a 1.4 million rating when NXT didn't even average a 900,000. And I don't want to hear the fucking excuse that it's just only the first week. Everyone's going to watch the first week. I don't want to hear that excuse. I do not want to hear that excuse. 1.4 million is 1.4 million. And based on what AEW has been doing ever since the inception of its company, you can bet your ass that people are going to tune in again to watch next week. The show started off in the best way possible. A great fucking match between Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara was made into a fucking star. A star. This went 12 minutes, and it was absolutely fantastic in every sense of the word. Sammy Guevara and Cody Rhodes tore it down. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who is saying that Cody is only benefiting himself, he kicked off the show. Wouldn't you think that if Cody was benefiting himself, wouldn't you think that he would be main eventing the show? Look at what Cody Rhodes has done ever since the inception of AEW. He was in the mid-card at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view, the Fyter Fest show, and All Out. The only time he was in the main event was at Fight for the Fallen, and he lost. Now he's here in the opening act at Dynamite. He's only getting a world title match because he is undefeated in singles competition. And what he's been doing with Chris Jericho to build up the world title match at Full Gear has been great. So why are you going to complain about Cody Rhodes? Cody Rhodes is an actual wrestler. Doesn't matter if he's an executive vice president or executive director of anything in AEW. He is still a full-time wrestler. He's 34. He's still young. There's a difference between a 34-year-old Cody Rhodes going out there and competing versus a 50-year-old Shane McMahon or a 50-year-old Goldberg or an Undertaker or a Kane or a Brock Lesnar or a Shawn Michaels or a Triple H. There's a huge difference between a Ric Flair and a Hulk Hogan taking up time on Monday Night Raw versus Cody Rhodes, who is half the age of Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. Big difference. If you can't understand that difference, then I can't help you. You're just a dumb fuck. But this was a great match to kick off AEW Dynamite. Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, they started off very technical back and forth, and it slowly picked up. We had Cody Rhodes hitting a springboard cutter on Guevara. Guevara actually hit a cutter of his own. He had a double springboard cutter out of the corner. Cody went for a suicide dive, but Guevara pulled Brandy in the middle of it. He pulled Brandy Rhodes in the middle of it. I thought this was great. Classic heel move by Guevara. That's something I can get behind. Guevara playing up to that classic old school heel mentality. I love it. That's what's going to get Guevara over as a heel. And the crowd was actually chanting asshole at Guevara for what he did to Brandy. Back in the ring, Guevara went for a moonsault. He missed the top rope moonsault. He missed the standing moonsault, but he caught a standing shooting star press on Cody Rhodes for a 2 count. Brandy Rhodes actually took her heel off and hit Guevara behind the referee's back with the heel of her shoe. Cody hit the disaster kick. Guevara sold the disaster kick beautifully, turned him inside out, topsy-turvy. Cody got the close 2 count on Guevara. Cody goes up to the top. He hits a huge reverse superplex for a near fall. Sammy Guevara was down and out. Cody Rhodes goes up to the top rope. He thought that Guevara was out, but Guevara got back up. He hit a beautiful Spanish fly on Cody, and then he went for the shooting star press. But Cody got the knees up, and Cody rolled up Sammy Guevara in a small package for the 1, 2, 3. Cody Rhodes wins a great opening match to AEW Dynamite. And you know something? I love the fact that they did it on a small cradle. This made Sammy Guevara look strong. And it played up to the fact that Sammy Guevara is young. Sammy Guevara is young. He's not that experienced. And Sammy Guevara, he's prone to making mistakes. Sammy Guevara got overzealous. Sammy Guevara got carried away. He decided to go up to the top rope, and he paid for it. He paid for it. Cody Rhodes caught him off guard, and Sammy Guevara was beaten by a small cradle. Cody Rhodes barely escaped with the win. That right there is what made Sammy Guevara into a star. Sammy Guevara's youth got the better of him. But at the end of the day, he kicked out of everything that Cody Rhodes had to offer, and he got caught off guard for a split second, and that cost him everything. That right there is great storytelling. Afterwards, Sammy went to shake Cody's hand. Chris Jericho attacked. We had a code breaker, and then we had a powerbomb by Chris Jericho onto the chairs. This obviously promoting the matchup at Full Gear for the world title between Cody and Jericho. We then had Brandon Cutler versus MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. MJF is a promo god, just pointing that out there. MJF is absolutely untouchable on the mic. I think MJF right now may be the best heel on the mic right now. He may be the best fucking heel in the world of professional wrestling on the microphone. He cut a promo on Brandon Cutler before the match. The match didn't really go long. It only went 4 minutes. It was sloppy, mainly on Brandon Cutler's part. He stepped away from wrestling for about 3 years before he got back into it. Obviously, that's going to play a factor in this match. MJF ended up winning with the Fujiwara armbar, as he should. This was pretty much a showcase match. Nothing special, sloppy at times, but MJF gets the win. MJF gains momentum here on the very first episode of AEW Dynamite. Angelico and Jack Evans got in the faces of Kevin Smith and Jay Mewes, otherwise known as Jay and Silent Bob, from Mallrats, before Private Party actually came out to aid Jay and Silent Bob. So we had a little confrontation between Angelico and Jack Evans and Private Party, obviously going back to what happened at Double or Nothing on the buy-in pre-show after Private Party defeated Angelico and Jack Evans, and Angelico and Jack Evans turned heel. So obviously, Angelico and Jack Evans are going to be a major heel tag team in the AEW tag team division, and more likely than not, they're going to be feuding with Private Party. We could possibly get Angelico and Jack Evans versus Private Party at Full Gear. We had a brawl between SCU and the Lucha Bros, and it was announced that the tag team tournament, SCU, is going to be using Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels in the tag team tournament in the first round matchup against the Best Friends. We had a brawl between SCU and the Lucha Bros, and it was a nice teaser of what we could possibly see in the finals. And if I was booking this, I would go with SCU and the Lucha Bros in the finals. I think that they right now are the two biggest teams in the AEW tag team division outside of the Young Bucks that they could put in. And I don't think the Young Bucks are going to be the first champions. They will be champions at some point, but they're not going to be the first champions now. I think the first champions are going to be the Lucha Bros. If you ask me, I think the Young Bucks they're not going to be champions until possibly next year, or maybe even 2021. What I see happening, I can see the Lucha Bros becoming the first ever AEW World Tag Team Champions. I can see SCU winning the title sometime next year, and then it's going to be SCU versus Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus at All Out 2. And that is going to be the culmination of Jurassic Express's Daniel Bryan-esque storyline. And Jurassic Express will become the new World Tag Team Champions, but that's not till next year. Right now, I can definitely see the Lucha Bros and SCU in the finals, and I could definitely see the Lucha Bros walking out victorious. We had the Bastard Pac versus Hangman Adam Page. This was a very good match. I very much enjoyed this match. I enjoyed the back and forth between Pac and Adam Page. We had Pac, and let me tell you something about Pac. Pac is so fluid with everything that he does. Pac is so fluid. I love the positioning and the fluidity on his moonsaults. I love the form that he executes his missile drop kick with. It's just so fluid and so precise. I love that about Pac. They really fucked up. The WWE really fucked up with Pac. I'm telling you. Adam Page, obviously, he got back on the offense. We had Adam Page hitting a pop-up powerbomb. And I believe Adam Page, he then went for the buckshot lariat. But Pac, he reversed it. And then Adam Page was going to go for a roll-up. But the ref got in the way. And Pac back-kicked Adam Page in the balls. And I love the reaction that Pac made. The ref was looking at him. Pac was getting his stuff together. And Pac just looks at the referee with this blank stare like it wasn't me. It wasn't me, man. But Adam Page was down. Pac went up to the top rope. He hit the Black Arrow. And then Pac put Adam Page in the Brutalizer. Pac defeats Adam Page. Pac is 2-0. And right now, Pac right now has two of the biggest wins in AEW history so far. One over Kenny Omega and another over a man who was challenging for the world title. Pac is going to be in the world title picture sooner rather than later. Now, originally I thought that we were going to see Pac and Jericho in Philadelphia in a couple weeks when Jericho defends the world title for the first time, but apparently Tony Khan confirmed at Comic-Con in New York that Shawn Spears versus Jon Moxley next week on AEW is going to be a number one contenders match. So we could either see Shawn Spears versus Jericho or Moxley versus Jericho. And I wouldn't mind either of it. I wouldn't mind either of them. Both of them are great, and I think Jericho is great as the world champion. Even at 48 years old, Jericho's doing some of the best work of his career. I would love either one. But very good match between Pac and Adam Page, and I can definitely see Pac in the world title picture sooner rather than later. We then had the women's title match, Riho versus Nyla Rose. A David versus Goliath-like encounter. It was sloppy at times, it was a little disorganized here and there, but overall, I feel as though this was a very good match, and both women did an exceptional job at getting you excited for what is to come in the coming months as far as the women's division goes. Riho and Nyla Rose, they did an excellent job with portraying the David versus Goliath storyline. Nyla Rose, she is doing great shit. She is getting over as a heel very nicely. Riho has that underdog type mentality. She has that Daniel Bryan-like feel where the crowd just wants to gravitate towards her. She's only 22, and she may look small and frail, but when Riho gets going, Riho is fucking brutal when it comes to her in-ring style. Those stomps, those knees, those strikes, fucking brutal. I would not want to be on the receiving end of Riho's stomps. Though she looks small, her stomps look like they fucking hurt. And I mean they fucking hurt. The referee was actually pulling chairs away from Nyla Rose towards the beginning of this match because Nyla was trying to bring out chairs. She was going to use some steel chairs. She made a bed of steel chairs, and she put Riho on top of the bed of steel chairs. Nyla Rose was going for a swanton bomb from the apron onto Riho when Riho was laying on those chairs. Riho moved, and Nyla Rose swanton bombed herself onto the chairs. That was brutal in its own right. And then Riho followed up with a double stomp off the apron to the chest of Nyla Rose. Back in the ring, Nyla Rose continued to work on Riho. We had Riho doing a double stomp right to the back of Nyla Rose, but Nyla Rose was able to kick out. Nyla Rose draped Riho over the top rope, and she did the same thing that she did to Riho back at Fyter Fest. She did a diving knee from the top to the back of Riho while Riho was draped over the top rope. That looked fucking brutal in its own right. But Riho kicked out. Riho's still going here. Nyla Rose goes up to the top rope, but Riho cuts Nyla Rose off. And Riho delivers a superplex from the top rope on Nyla Rose. Riho then follows up with double knees, a double Meteora, right to the face of Nyla Rose. 1, 2, 3. And Riho is your very first ever AEW Women's Champion. This was the right decision. I think Riho is a great representative as the first champion for AEW. Nyla Rose, she's great, but she wasn't ready yet. She wasn't ready yet, and I can't really take Nyla Rose that seriously considering she only has one legitimate win in All Elite Wrestling, and that was at the Casino Battle Royal at All Out. Meanwhile, Riho has had 3 victories, now 4 victories in AEW, so I can definitely get behind Riho as the first champion. Michael Nakazawa, he went to interview Riho afterwards. Nyla Rose attacked, she powerbombed Michael Nakazawa, and she was going to go attack Riho until Kenny Omega made the save. And Kenny Omega saved Riho from another beating from Nyla Rose, Who is Riho defending the Women's World title against on the October 16th edition of Dynamite? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and find out. The main event. And the ending scene of Dynamite was beautifully chaotic, if I do say so myself. We had the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega keep Jericho and Santana and Ortiz at bay for the moment. We had a huge Fosby flop to the outside, taking out the members of PNP now, Pride and Powerful, or Santana and Ortiz. Jericho was taken out by double super kicks. Kenny Omega was getting ready for a dive, but out of nowhere, the crowd just lights up, and all of a sudden, like a fucking zombie rising from the dead, you see Jon Moxley behind Kenny Omega. Moxley attacks Omega, and then Moxley takes Omega out into the... He takes him out into the crowd, into the VIP area, and he delivers a Death Rider. Yes, a Death Rider to Kenny Omega through a glass table. I do not care who you are. And I don't care how much money that you pay me. You could pay me $1 million. You could pay me $1 billion. You could pay me $1 trillion. You could not pay me all the money in the world to take a Death Rider through a glass table. I was in a car accident when I was 8 years old, and a piece of glass went through my hand. And I'd like to keep it that way. I don't want to risk getting a piece of glass in my fucking brain. My fucking God, Kenny Omega has got some balls for taking that. Death Rider through a glass table. This is only getting me more excited for their eventual matchup at Full Gear. My God, that was brutal. I would not take that even if my life depended on it. I could not. After we come back from commercial, the Young Bucks get the hot tag. We had Nick Jackson taking out everyone. He was taking out Santana, Ortiz. We had a huge tornado dive to the outside. Unfortunately, the numbers game was just too much. Santana and Ortiz took out Matt Jackson and kept Nick Jackson at bay. And then Jericho hit the Judas effect, and Chris Jericho and Santana and Ortiz defeat the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in a fun main event. Jericho continued to attack the Young Bucks, as well as Santana and Ortiz helped Jericho. Cody came out to attack Jericho. Guevara came out to attack Cody. It was just pure bedlam at this rate. Dustin Rhodes came out to make the save, and out of nowhere, Jake Hager, yes, Jake Hager, aka Jack Swagger, came out and just attacked everyone. They laid out everyone. We had a powerbomb, a gut-wrench powerbomb to Dustin Rhodes on a wooden podium. We had Jericho taking out Cody. We had Guevara taking out the Young Bucks. We had just all the heels were taking out everyone. And by the end of it, we had the visual of Guevara, Jericho, Hager, Santana, and Ortiz standing over everyone. And here's what I'm going to say. If I was to choose, gun to my head, which show was better? Was it NXT or was it Dynamite? I'm going with Dynamite, but not by much. I'm going with Dynamite by an eyelash. And the reason why is because I love factions. And what we got at the end of Dynamite looks to be the formation of a new faction. And the one thing that I really love about factions is the fact that you take a look at some of the greatest factions in WWE history, in WCW and ECW or whatever. And factions like that have a strong unpredictability factor. And the unpredictability factor of a faction like that makes the faction itself that much more interesting, that much more intriguing, and that much more exciting. And I can't wait to see what they do. I don't know if this is going to be a faction or not. And if it is, we could have a hostile takeover of AEW. If they eventually introduce a mid-card title, which I know they will, because there's way too much talent on that show not to have a mid-card title. But when they eventually do introduce a mid-card title, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge. We could see a hostile takeover of Dynamite, and who knows? I'm going out on a limb and say they call this the Alpha Club. I say they call this the Alpha Club, and I say that this is really going to be a game changer. A faction like this is going to make people want to tune into Dynamite because they are that much more intrigued about what is this faction going to do next. Who are they going to target next? What are they going to do? Are they going to win a championship? Are they going to lose a championship? Are they going to add members? Are they going to kick out members? That is the greatness about a faction. And that's what I think we're going to get with the formation of this Guevara, Jericho, Santana, Ortiz, and Hager faction. If they do eventually, if they do even form a faction to begin with. But I thought it was a great episode of Dynamite. Wasn't perfect, it had its flaws, but overall, they did a great job, and they definitely got you excited for next week. And especially next week, I heard that we have Hangman and Dustin versus Guevara and Jericho in a tag team match. So we have that tag team match, we have Shawn Spears and Moxley, and we have the Young Bucks and Private Party in the first round of the AEW World Tag Team Tournament. So you can imagine that it is going to be a huge fucking week next week. NXT, what can I say about NXT? I watched NXT, and this was the closest thing that you could have gotten to a takeover without them putting it on the network and actually calling it takeover. And I mentioned this on the reality podcast episode with Chris, aka your boy Chris. Shout out to him. If you want to go follow him, it's at Chris from Loring on Twitter. Go subscribe to him on YouTube as well. It's your boy Chris. I starred on episode 61 of the reality podcast, and I will put the link in the description for you if you want to go check that out. NXT kicked off in the best way possible. NXT kicked off with an excellent NXT championship match between Adam Cole and Matt Riddle. I fucking loved it. I loved every minute of it. This right here, this was one of the best matches of the year. It definitely won't be the match of the year, but it is certainly making a strong case of why it should be considered in the top 10. And I also said this on the reality podcast. I did say that Adam Cole, as of right now, Adam Cole, and let me tell you something, I know that there's been a lot of great NXT champions. We've had Ciampa, we've had Balor, we've had Nakamura, we've had Samoa Joe, we've had Kevin Owens. But Adam Cole right now, especially after his last 4 title defenses against Tozawa, Gargano, Jordan Myles, and now Matt Riddle, Adam Cole is really making a strong case of why he should be considered the greatest NXT champion of all time. Every single match that Adam Cole has had as NXT champion thus far has been an absolute classic, and this was no different. This was no different whatsoever. Matt Riddle, he fucking lit up Adam Cole in this match. We had Matt Riddle doing V-triggers, we had penalty kicks, we had Fisherman Busters. Adam Cole was able to kick out. We had a great sequence here by Adam Cole and Matt Riddle where Adam Cole hit a super kick. Matt Riddle followed up with a V-trigger knee. Adam Cole hit an enziguri. Matt Riddle followed up with a huge German suplex that almost dropped Adam Cole right on his neck. Matt Riddle looked to follow up, but he caught an Ushigoroshi neckbreaker by Adam Cole, and Adam Cole still was not able to put Matt Riddle away. He still was not able to put Matt Riddle away. We had Matt Riddle in the middle of a Panama Sunrise, and Matt Riddle was able to kick out. Crowd's going fucking crazy. Crowd's chanting, holy shit. Matt Riddle takes Adam Cole to the apron, but Adam Cole knocks Matt Riddle off the apron. He goes for a jumping V-trigger. Does Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle connects it. He hits the floating bro, but Adam Cole, he gets the shoulder up. Or not the shoulder up, he gets the knees up. He gets the knees up, then he hits the Panama Sunrise. I kind of botched that. I kind of got a little ahead of myself there. But he hit the Panama Sunrise after Matt Riddle didn't connect with the floating bro. We had a sequence here where Matt Riddle did a powerbomb, final flash knee, and then he finally connected with the floating bro. But Matt Riddle was not able to put Adam Cole away. Adam Cole kicked Adam Cole in the... Adam Cole kicked Adam Cole. Adam Cole kicked Matt Riddle in the mouth with a super kick to the back. He connected with the Panama Sunrise, then he went for the last shot. But Matt Riddle reversed it into the bro mission. Then he connected it with a Fujiwara armbar on the injured arm, the arm wrapped up with a cast. Then Adam Cole fought out of it, then he wrapped the left arm, the uncasted arm, in a Fujiwara armbar. Adam Cole was able to fight out of that one. Matt Riddle went to grab Adam Cole. I believe he was looking for something, but Matt Riddle caught a face full of cast. Adam Cole hit him right in the face with his cast, and then hit the last shot. Adam Cole defeats Matt Riddle in an excellent NXT Championship match. Great way to open the show, and that's all I can really say. Adam Cole and Matt Riddle put on a fucking classic. And then afterwards, Finn Balor. Yes, Finn Balor. You have not misheard me. I did not stutter, and no, YouTube is not acting up. You heard me correctly. Finn Balor returned. Finn Balor returned to NXT. He says he is once again NXT. And I also got some news on Finn Balor, which I will talk about when we get to the news, rumors, and reports section of the LFU. Velveteen Dream addressed the crowd, and he had his typical couch. He had the women surrounding him, and he pretty much challenged Roderick Strong to a rematch for the North American Championship. Says it will be Dream over, and that was that. Next week, we actually got Lio Rush versus Drew Gulak for the Cruiserweight Championship. I'm very interested to see what they do next week, and if they give Lio Rush the championship. Io Shirai and Mia Yim. This was a great match. This was a great match, and this is how good Io Shirai really is. She brought Mia Yim to Mia Yim's best match in the WWE. Mia Yim was on the defense to begin the show. She ended up firing back. We had Mia Yim hitting a suicide dive. We had the code blue. Io Shirai was able to fire back. We had Io Shirai hit a 619. We had the springboard dropkick that Io Shirai usually does. Io Shirai was able to win this match when Mia Yim was going up top. I believe she was looking for a swanton bomb, but Io Shirai cut her off. She hit a huge superplex, and then we had a huge springboard moonsault out of the corner, and Io Shirai defeats Mia Yim in a great women's match. This is what we need to see on Raw and SmackDown. This right here, this is women's wrestling. Io Shirai and Mia Yim showed you exactly why women's wrestling can be great if you give the women the opportunity that they deserve and you put the correct women in the correct spots on the correct shows. Io Shirai and Mia Yim, no titles. No titles, no story, no build, and we got a great fucking women's match. This is what we need to see. We need to see more matches like that. If they do, as far as Raw and SmackDown go, if they do more matches like this for the women, the women's division will be taken a lot more seriously. Right now, the women's division's absolutely dead on Raw and SmackDown. From that, we go into Johnny Gargano versus Shane Thorne. This was a very good match. This was a very good match. I love this match. And Shane Thorne, you can count Shane Thorne in as far as the star-making department goes. There was 2 stars that were made on Wednesday night. Shane Thorne and Sammy Guevara. Shane Thorne was put in there with virtually the best wrestler in the world right now in the WWE. Johnny Gargano, the face of NXT. Johnny Gargano, the man who has pretty much been the core pillar that has made NXT so great for the last 2 years. And we got a very good match. Shane Thorne proved that he can hang with the big boys. Johnny Gargano was on the defense for the majority of the matchup, and I love how Gargano sold for Shane Thorne. He was selling back suplexes and suplexes on the apron as if he was permanently injured. I fucking loved Gargano selling for Shane Thorne. It's like Gargano was born to do this, and Gargano made Shane Thorne look that much more legit. Gargano ended up fighting back. We had a suicide dive, slingshot spear. Shane Thorne was able to kick out. We had a nice sequence by Shane Thorne here where Shane Thorne hit a leg lariat and then hit a huge powerbomb, a last ride sit-out powerbomb on Johnny Gargano for a close 2 count. Shane Thorne has a beautiful powerbomb, by the way. Shane Thorne, he took Gargano down, and he was going for a jumping knee, but Gargano dodged it, and he hit the poison Rana. He hit the reverse Rana, and Gargano then set up Shane Thorne for a super kick. Gargano got him, and Gargano got the win in a very good match. Johnny Gargano gets the win over Shane Thorne, and Gargano gets back to winning ways. Shayna Baszler versus Candice LeRae. Listen, this was a very good match. Don't get me wrong. This was a very good match, but I do not like the outcome. I did not like the outcome at all. The outcome of this match was very questionable. And Shayna Baszler and her booking at this rate has become very questionable. It was questionable back then, and it's questionable now. And it's pretty much proving my point and what I said a while ago to be correct. Shayna Baszler should have never gotten another NXT Women's Championship run. She didn't need it. Shayna Baszler was already established. Shayna Baszler should have been up on the main roster after Survivor Series of 2018. Realistically, every single person that Shayna Baszler has defended against, she should have lost the title against. I don't know what they're doing, but Shayna Baszler as NXT Women's Champion, it really isn't needed anymore. I don't know if they have plans for Shayna. I don't know if they don't, but to me, it almost feels like Shayna Baszler's holding the women's division back now. And I love Shayna Baszler, and I know how great Shayna Baszler is. Her title reign has been great, but at the same point in time, it's very questionable because you're putting all of these individuals in front of Shayna, and she's just winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. Tonight should have been Candice's, or Wednesday night should have been Candice's night. It doesn't really make any sense that you're going to have Candice LeRae just go out there and put on a very good match and then just come up short just like everyone else. You're almost making Shayna Baszler like an undefeatable monster. Who's going to be that person? Are you really just going to have Shayna Baszler go up to the main roster and relinquish the title? Why not use that? Use that to build someone up in NXT. Candice LeRae winning would have been perfect. It would have been absolutely perfect. It was a very good match, don't get me wrong. Wrong outcome. Wrong outcome. I don't know what they're doing with Shayna. I don't know who's going to do it. I don't know. Could it be Dakota Kai? Are they going to do another match with Bianca Belair? Are they going to do another match with Io Shirai? I don't know. I really don't know. Candice LeRae was on the defense at the beginning of this match until we had a flatliner on the apron by Candice LeRae on Shayna. We had a huge flatliner on Baszler. Candice LeRae started to fire back. She was going up to the top, but Baszler cut her off. And Baszler hit a avalanche gut-wrench suplex for a close 2 count there. Baszler was able to counter. She hit Candice LeRae with a jumping knee. We had a gut-wrench suplex face slam, but Candice LeRae was able to stay alive. Candice LeRae took out Shayna Baszler, and Candice LeRae had Shayna Baszler laid out. Shayna Baszler was laid out on the floor. She was going for the lion salt, but Shayna Baszler moved and pulled Candice LeRae into the Karafuda clutch, and Candice LeRae tapped out. Very good match, but wrong winner. I don't really understand why Shayna Baszler's still champion. I don't think she should have been champion. She realistically should have gone up to the main roster, and Kairi Sane should have been champion, and Kairi Sane should have dropped the title to Belair. It really didn't make any sense for Shayna Baszler to win back the championship. Next week, we got Kushida versus Walter. So you can imagine that match is going to be an absolute classic. We then, speaking of the UK, we actually had a good match between Pete Dunne and Danny Burch. It's always good to see Danny Burch in singles competition, especially against a guy like Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne was on the receiving end of a lot of offense from Danny Burch. We had a German suplex. We had the draping DDT, but Pete Dunne was able to kick out. We had Pete Dunne hit Danny Burch with a enziguri. We had the snap of the fingers that Pete Dunne usually does. We had the bitter end, and Pete Dunne gets the win over Danny Burch. Pete Dunne continues his winning ways. Pete Dunne looking legit as ever. But this match, no matter how good it was, this match wasn't the highlight of this entire segment. The highlight of this entire segment was what happened after the match. Damian Priest, yes, Damian Priest attacks Pete Dunne. Out of nowhere. Damian Priest comes out of nowhere, attacks Pete Dunne, and Damian Priest puts down Pete Dunne with the reckoning, and he says to Pete Dunne, I'm going to live forever. Damian Priest and Pete Dunne at the next takeover, take my money. Take my money. This right is a perfect feud for Damian Priest. Pete Dunne is legit as ever. And to win over the longest reigning champion of the modern era, this is really going to get Priest over as a dominant heel. And Damian Priest, I could see Damian Priest as North American champion by mid-2020. I really could. And then the main event, we had a great tag team match between the Undisputed Era and the Street Profits. Undisputed Era was wearing down Montez Ford in the beginning portions of this match. We had a lot of suplexes, a lot of kicks. And Montez Ford, when he eventually made the tag to Dawkins, the crowd lit up. Dawkins was taking out everyone, running through the kicks, hitting the clotheslines, hitting spears, hitting pounces. Angelo Dawkins was on a roll. Angelo Dawkins took out Bobby Fish momentarily. Kyle O'Reilly was on the outside. Montez Ford got the tag. Montez Ford was on the receiving end of a frog splash. Montez Ford executed a frog splash. Bobby Fish was on the receiving end of it, and Bobby Fish was able to kick out. We then had Roderick Strong getting involved after Montez Ford did a ricochet-like dive over the post, taking out everyone. And then they were going for the win here, but Roderick Strong came in. He was pulling the leg of Montez Ford. Angelo Dawkins came in and speared Roderick Strong off the apron. But Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish took advantage. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish hit the total elimination, and Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish defeat the Street Profits in a great NXT Championship Tag Team match. And Adam Cole came out. He was showboating on stage. But then out of nowhere, you hear the time bomb ticking. Tommaso Ciampa comes back. Yes, Tommaso Ciampa is back. And he has been cleared for in-ring competition. Tommaso Ciampa has returned. And Tommaso Ciampa is back in NXT. So now we have Balor and Ciampa to worry about as far as the main event title picture goes. What a fucking episode of NXT. I cannot wait to see what they do in the coming weeks, especially leading up to TakeOver War Games 3. And let me tell you something. I do have some news on Vince McMahon and his involvement in NXT, possibly, coming to fruition in the future. Especially with the fact that AEW crushed NXT this week. NXT UK. It was okay. This week. Like I said, the last few weeks, I feel as though they are just coasting through the Cardiff tapings until they actually get to the next city, and then the next city they're really going to pick it up again. The NXT UK weekly show is now on Thursdays, so I'll be watching it on Thursdays from now on. It was okay. There wasn't really anything on the show worth going back and watching outside of a very good women's match in the main event with Tegan Nox and Kaylee Ray, which I will talk about later on. We started off the show with Piper Niven versus Isla Dawn. This was a decent match for what it was. We had Piper Niven on the offense to start off the match. We had the crossbody to Isla Dawn. Isla Dawn ended up getting back into the mix. We had Isla Dawn hit a huge Saito suplex on Piper Niven. We had Isla Dawn hit a dropkick in the corner, but Isla Dawn was not able to put Piper Niven away. Isla Dawn was on the receiving end of a huge headbutt, and then the Meishinuku driver by Piper Niven. Piper Niven defeats Isla Dawn. Decent match to kick off the show. Piper Niven gets back to winning ways, and Piper Niven now has to tend with Jazzy Gabbert. Jazzy Gabbert, she attacked Piper Niven in the back while Ginny watched, and Johnny Saint made the match for next week. It's going to be Jazzy Gabbert and Piper Niven. The Hunt are also in action next week. I'm assuming they're going to be building up the Hunt for a possible NXT Tag Team title match in the future. Ilya Dragunov was shown in the back with ice on his shoulder. He said he wasn't cleared to compete. And all of a sudden, you see Alexander Wolf come in from the side. And Alexander Wolf's going, you know what, Ilya? I like you. I really like you. And, you should really start thinking about your future. If this is going to mean we're possibly going to get Ilya Dragunov versus Imperium, and possibly Ilya Dragunov versus Walter, sign me up. I've heard a lot of ramblings that the matches between Walter and Ilya Dragunov back in Progress were fantastic. And Ilya Dragunov is very young. He's 25, 26. He's got a lot of years left in him. And what he's been doing has been great. Especially what he did with Cassius Ohno and Cesaro. So we know that Ilya Dragunov is going to be big. We know that Ilya Dragunov can put on an absolute fucking show when he's in there with the right talent. If Ilya Dragunov is in this feud with Imperium, we can definitely be seeing Ilya Dragunov as the next NXT UK champion. We really could. I wouldn't mind it at all. Alexander Wolf ended up defeating Saxon Huxley later. This was pretty much a showcase match, nothing really too special. Just a common showcase match, and Alexander Wolf defeated Saxon Huxley. He says he was fighting for Ilya Dragunov, and that was pretty much that. The Grizzled Young Veterans and Ashton Smith had a war of words, and Ashton Smith pretty much challenged the Grizzled Young Veterans to a tag team match. So next week we'll probably see the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Ashton Smith and a partner of his choosing. We were supposed to have a match between Jack Stars and Mike Bart. And Mike Bart is the trainer of Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews. Gallus came out, they attacked Stars, and then they attacked Mike Bart. Webster and Andrews came out to make the save, but Joe Coffey came out to aid Gallus in taking out the tag team champions. And Gallus and Joe Coffey stood tall over the tag team champions with the signature Gallus pose, the signature three-man handshake. So a tag team title match between Gallus and Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster down the line, I can definitely get behind that. Main event was Kay Lee Ray versus Tegan Nox. This was a very good match. I enjoyed this match. I think Kay Lee Ray and Tegan Nox worked very well together. And it really got Tegan Nox over as a babyface, and Kay Lee Ray is looking incredibly strong as the new NXT UK Women's Champion. Kay Lee Ray was on the receiving end of a Molly go-round, tribute to Molly Holly, by Tegan Nox. Kay Lee Ray was able to kick out, though. Kay Lee Ray was able to hit Tegan Nox with a super kick. Tegan Nox was able to survive and hit a super kick of her own, but Kay Lee Ray kicked out. Kay Lee Ray, she was on the receiving end of a Canadian Destroyer by Tegan Nox. Yes, a Canadian Destroyer by Tegan Nox. Tegan Nox hits the Canadian Destroyer on Kay Lee Ray, but Kay Lee Ray kicks out. Tegan Nox has Kay Lee Ray on the apron. Tegan Nox is going to go for a Shining Wizard. Or actually, no. Tegan Nox actually hit the Shiniest Wizard, but Kay Lee Ray got her foot on the rope. Kay Lee Ray got her foot on the rope. Kay Lee Ray's out on the apron. Tegan Nox goes for another Shining Wizard out on the apron, but Kay Lee Ray moves. Kay Lee Ray moves. Tegan Nox was sent knee first into the post, and then Kay Lee Ray hit the Widow's Peak, and Kay Lee Ray defeats Tegan Nox. Kay Lee Ray looking as strong as ever. This was a very good women's match. This is what we need to see as far as women's wrestling goes. NXT always gets it right with women's wrestling. They know what they're fucking doing. They know. SmackDown. This was disappointing. This was really disappointing. And I really don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. The only good thing that came out of SmackDown, or the only good things that came out of SmackDown, was the fact that Kevin Owens won and Shane McMahon is gone, and the fact that Brock Lesnar is now the WWE Champion. Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon kicked off the show with a 3-minute promo. Not even a 3-minute promo, like a 1-minute promo, saying, "Welcome everyone to Friday Night SmackDown." Becky Lynch started off the show. She was interrupted by Corbin. The Rock came out to a thunderous ovation. And look, it's always good to see The Rock. He's funny. He called Corbin a broke-ass Burger King on crack. I laughed at that, not gonna lie. Rock said that just because Corbin won King of the Ring doesn't make him a king. Yeah, you might want to tell that to WWE management, Rock, because WWE's apparently still stuck in this realm and stuck with this mentality that they need to give the King of the Ring winner a shitty king gimmick and not a world title match. Rock said that you don't see Becky Lynch walking around with a pair of testicles just because she's a man. And then Becky said, but even if I did, they'd be a lot bigger than yours. So Corbin was like, my testicles are perfectly adequate. And then The Rock said, you're a badass. You're a super tough dude. And Becky Lynch was like, yeah, he's a super tough dude. And then apparently, Baron Corbin is now stuck with the nickname STD for the rest of his life. Becky and The Rock take out Corbin, and that was pretty much it. Look, it was entertaining. I'm not going to lie. I laughed. But at the end of the day, was this really necessary? No. First off, Baron Corbin, no matter how much I dislike Baron Corbin won King of the Ring. Baron Corbin is a former U.S. champion, former Money in the Bank winner, and you had The Rock and Becky Lynch go out there and embarrass Baron Corbin, pretty much deeming everything that Baron Corbin did worthless. And on top of that, this is supposed to be a sports-driven show. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Fox? Fox is a sports channel. SmackDown Live is supposed to be a sports-driven show. But yet here we are having a 20-minute long promo to kick off what is supposed to be a sports-driven show and not an actual match. I don't fucking get that. We don't need 20-minute promos, no matter how funny and entertaining it was. It was unnecessary and excessive. We don't need 20-minute promos kicking off what is supposed to be a wrestling show. Look at what AEW Dynamite did. Look at what NXT did. They kicked off the show with wrestling right out of the gate. That's what Raw and SmackDown need to start doing. Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch defeated Bayley and Sasha Banks. Decent match for what it was, but was it anything special? No. Standard stuff. Becky Lynch doing her standard shtick. The roundhouse kicks, the exploders, the forearms, the leg drops. We had a moonsault by Charlotte Flair taking out Sasha Banks and Bayley on the outside. We had Charlotte Flair tap out Bayley. Yes, Sasha Flair. Charlotte Flair tapped out Bayley. I don't care who you are or what story you're trying to tell. In no way, shape, or form should Bayley, your SmackDown Women's Champion, be losing by submission. I've said this numerous amounts of times. WWE hands out victories over champions in non-title matches as if they're handing out fucking candy on Halloween. Why not build up a champion to be a legitimate star, make them feel special, not like everyone else, and then, if you want to, every now and then, you can have a champion lose, and it would actually mean something, and it would feel more surprising. I compared what Velveteen Dream did this year when he was North American champion. Velveteen Dream didn't lose all year. Velveteen Dream was undefeated from January to June. Roderick Strong pinned Velveteen Dream in that six-man tag with Riddle, Breeze, Dream versus the Undisputed Era, and Roderick Strong was able to earn himself a North American title match. Velveteen Dream wasn't pinned all year. And when Roderick Strong pinned him, that made it feel special. That's what WWE needs to start doing. They need to start building up their champions like legitimate stars. Champions constantly looking weak in non-title matches. I cannot fucking stand it. I can't stand it. No way, shape, or form was this match necessary. It was not needed. It didn't need to take place, especially if Bayley was going to tap out to Charlotte Flair. Champions should not be losing. I don't give a shit. We had Firefly Funhouse, in which Mercy the Buzzard destroyed Rambling Rabbit in what is supposed to be a Hell in a Cell preview of what's going to happen to Rollins. The Fiend then attacked Seth Rollins during his matchup with Nakamura, and that was pretty much that. 3 minutes of Rollins and Nakamura, only for the Fiend to come out and do the same shit that he did to Rollins at Clash of Champions, and the same shit that he did to Rollins on Raw this past Monday. Kevin Owens versus Shane McMahon in a ladder match. Look, some people thought this was very good, but at the end of the day, this was very predictable. It was very predictable, and look, predictable isn't bad, but what was done to get to that eventual outcome, it just felt so lackluster. It felt so lackluster. It felt so ordinary. It felt flat. It felt flat. It felt uninteresting. It felt unexciting. Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon doing the typical ladder spots. We had a Shane McMahon elbow drop through the table. We had a frog splash through a ladder. We had Shane McMahon doing a coast-to-coast with the ladder. We had Kevin Owens doing a powerbomb on the ladder. Kevin Owens won. Shane McMahon is fired. Kevin Owens hits the stunner, and that's pretty much it. That was a ladder match. The only good part about this thing is that Shane McMahon's gone. Gone for good, I hope. Why the fuck do we need an 8-man tag match on SmackDown Live? Seriously, this is the most stereotypical WWE thing that they could have done. Braun Strowman, The Miz, and Heavy Machinery defeated Robert Roode, Dolph Ziggler, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles. This went all but 4 minutes, and Dolph Ziggler, one half of the Raw Tag Team Champions, was pinned by Braun Strowman, all to set up a stare down between Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman. And now, apparently, Tyson Fury is getting an open microphone next week. Why do we need this shit? Why do we need it? It's unnecessary. It's not needed, and it's completely, utterly fucking terrible. It's terrible. It's the same typical WWE shit that we've always seen. They bring in someone from outside the WWE to generate ratings and generate a pop and generate all these social media headlines on ESPN or Sportskeeda or whatever to draw in the casual audience instead of actually focusing on what you have in the WWE right now, instead of focusing on the talent that you have right now, building them up, building intriguing storylines, and actually making them the source of drawing people to watch your shows. Instead of bringing in all of these celebrities and all of these people with non-WWE backgrounds into the company just to generate ratings in the cheapest way possible for 1 week, and then for the next 6-7 weeks, you don't have any ratings, and then you bring back another celebrity to generate ratings that week, and then the next week, another eight weeks of low ratings. Oh, we gotta call in a celebrity, we gotta call in a legend. Make use of the talent that you have. We don't fucking need Tyson Fury and Braun Strowman in a stare down on what is supposed to be a wrestling show. Use the talent that you have to generate ratings and intrigue organically instead of doing it in the cheapest way possible. Stop taking the easy way out with these celebrities. Same thing with Cain Velasquez, which I will talk about in a minute. Oh my God, and don't even get me started. Don't even get me started on what happened after this. When I have a wrestling show and you're having what I've said is a 20-year-old rehashed championship gimmick and concept in the middle of what is supposed to be a sports show, and you have a fucking singer, a fucking recording artist, a musician in Marshmello winning the 24/7 title. I don't even know what to say. I really don't even know what to say. I'm literally losing my patience. I'm losing energy. I'm losing legitimately every ounce of interest that I have. I'm losing my ability to even care to watch the shows and even sit here in this worn out wooden chair and talk about it. I actually wish I had an overbearing amount of schoolwork because I literally don't even want to talk about these shows. Fucking Marshmello wins the 24/7 title. He wants me to be happier? I'll tell you what would make me happier. I will be happier when the 24/7 title goes. It goes, and it goes. That is when I'll be happier. Roman Reigns defeated Eric Rowan in a lumberjack match. Who cares? Same old shit that we've seen. 12 minutes of Roman Reigns and Rowan. What haven't we seen between Roman and Rowan that we saw at Hell in a Cell? Means nothing. And then here's the best part. The main event. Brock Lesnar. Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. Bell rings. Kofi charges at Lesnar. Lesnar picks him out of the air. F5. 1, 2, 3. Brock Lesnar is the new WWE Champion. I'm not upset that Kofi Kingston lost. We all knew Kofi was going to lose. Kofi had to lose. It was a given. It was needed. It needed to happen. Kofi is not a legitimate WWE champion. Kofi Kingston was not a good champion. His reign was terrible due to booking. And mainly because of the fact that they booked Kofi Kingston with the same stereotypical stale and boring New Day gimmick that we've seen him do for the last 5 years, flinging pancakes, gyrating his hips, and skip clapping. That is not a representation of what a world champion should have. If they book Kofi Kingston with a sense of severity when it comes to matches like he had with Joe, like he had with Orton, like he had with Lesnar, then maybe people wouldn't be complaining. Kofi Kingston had to lose. Brock Lesnar as champion, and Brock Lesnar going full-time, as the reports are supposedly saying, is what is best for SmackDown Live on Fox as we speak. But whoever's idea it was to have a squash match as your first ever main event on SmackDown on Fox, you should be removed from your position. Whatever position you may have in the WWE. What a fucking terrible first impression. 8 seconds. This went 8 seconds. A squash match for the WWE Championship. This went 8 seconds in the main event of the very first episode of SmackDown on Fox Sports. That's your main event. 8 seconds. Again, I state, 8 seconds. I was laughing. I was legitimately laughing, and not for the right reason. 8 seconds, an 8-second squash is your main event for the very first episode of SmackDown Live on Fox. This is one of the worst first impressions I have ever fucking seen for a debut episode on a new network. Absolutely fucking terrible. It was terrible. Now, Cain Velasquez, don't get me wrong. Cain Velasquez is great. And no matter how great he is, do we really need Cain Velasquez in the WWE going up against Brock Lesnar, which is supposedly taking place at Crown Jewel now, reported by Dave Meltzer. Apparently, we're going to have Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship at Crown Jewel. Cain Velasquez came out in aid of Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was in a sling. Rey Mysterio was walking out with Cain Velasquez, and Cain Velasquez took out Brock Lesnar. Punched him around a bit, and that was it. No matter how good Cain Velasquez is, we don't need someone from outside of WWE coming in, jumping right to the front of the line for a world title match when you have all of these individuals in the back who have been waiting for years and years and they still haven't gotten an opportunity. Again, this is exactly what I said. Similar case with Tyson Fury. Bringing in people from outside of WWE to generate ratings and pops in the cheapest way possible, and then they forget about everyone else. Cain Velasquez, no matter if he signed or not, now supposedly he didn't sign, the right man to win the WWE Championship from Brock Lesnar is Kevin Owens. And I've been saying this for weeks now. Kevin Owens right now is on the biggest babyface run of his entire career. Kevin Owens is the biggest babyface that WWE has on the main roster. They cannot let them pass him by. They cannot pass this by. They can't. Brock Lesnar needs to hold the title all the way to WrestleMania. Kevin Owens, he needs to be the sole survivor at Survivor Series of this year. He needs to be the sole survivor. He needs to win the match for Team SmackDown at Survivor Series. He needs to go on to win the Royal Rumble. And then he beats Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Plain and simple. I do not care. Brock Lesnar, he cannot lose the title to Velasquez. He needs to beat Velasquez, and he needs to go on to WrestleMania 36. Kevin Owens wins the title. No excuses about it. But outside of Brock being champion and outside of Shane McMahon being gone for good, terrible episode of SmackDown. It was absolutely terrible. But then you're gonna have some people that are going to try and defend this in the same way that they defended Monday Night Raw. So supposedly SmackDown drew a 4.0 rating. One of the highest it's ever been. Who cares? Show still sucked. Just because it has ratings doesn't mean it's good. And that was that. Moving on. Now on to the news, rumors, and reports. So, my first report here, if you didn't see on Twitter, Randy Orton, now he's certainly not shy when it comes to Twitter, but Randy Orton, he apparently challenged The Rock to a match at WrestleMania 36. He tweeted a couple days ago, at The Rock, and I quote, at The Rock, I see you will be at hashtag SmackDown on Fox this Friday. How about you and I have a discussion about who's the greatest third generation of all time, and we answer the question April 5th in Tampa at WrestleMania 36. A Viper's sense of smell is unmatched. I smell what you're cooking. End quote. Randy Orton versus The Rock at WrestleMania 36. Now, I certainly wouldn't mind that. It definitely puts Randy Orton and The Rock in positions in which they can showcase what they can do. It definitely puts them in a big match, and it could give the younger talent a chance to shine in the title matches. I definitely wouldn't mind seeing Randy Orton and The Rock compete at WrestleMania 36. Let me know what you guys think. And I apologize about my dog. There's no stopping her. Dave Meltzer actually spoke about Balor's recent return to NXT on the Wrestling Observer newsletter. He stated, and I quote, so Balor's there. It's like he's not going to be on Raw or SmackDown. I don't think they're going to change his contract and lower it. So I'm sure he is making great money. So here's the other thing too. It's like he's going to be working a way easier schedule for the same money. So for him, fuck yeah. End quote. So apparently they're not changing his schedule. They're not, lowering his contract. It's going to be the same amount of money, and he's going to be working a lot lighter as well. So if I'm Balor, I'm loving it. Especially since he's in NXT now, you can imagine that Balor is going to be a lot happier on the black and gold brand. I don't know exactly where he's going to be positioned in NXT. They could go either way with him. You can have him go and fight for the North American Championship. He could be in the NXT title picture, especially since he interrupted Adam Cole. But that remains to be seen. I don't necessarily know how they are going to position Balor or how they're going to book him as far as this return goes. But you can only imagine that it's going to be huge. One way or another, it's going to be huge. Triple H spoke with Sports Illustrated, and he discussed Vince possibly having a say in NXT. Now, this is rather interesting. You are going to want to listen closely to this. Triple H stated, everything that happens within WWE has Vince's fingerprints on it. There is no NXT without Vince. It wouldn't exist without him. He wants NXT to be different. Something for the passionate fan base. It's a darker, grittier feel. It's different. He totally understands that, but he has no desire to be in the day-to-day operations. Vince has a lot of other things on his plate. Okay, first off, the first couple of lines, complete and utter bullshit. Bullshit. Everything that happens within WWE is Vince's fingerprints on it. Bullshit. NXT has Vince's fingerprints on it. No way, no how. There's no sign of Vince McMahon on NXT. Vince did not create NXT. Triple H created NXT. He's merely saying this because he has to. He's merely saying this because it's the politically correct thing to say. Vince wants NXT to be different. We're breaking this down piece by piece. Vince wants NXT to be different. Something for the more passionate fan base. Bullshit again. Vince McMahon does not care about his fan base. Vince McMahon doesn't want NXT to be anything. If anything, if we're going to talk about what Vince McMahon wants, Vince McMahon only wants money. He doesn't care about his fan base. He doesn't care how passionate they are. He doesn't care about who they like, who they dislike. He does what he does because he wants to do it, and if it gets him money, he's going to do it regardless. Even if it doesn't get him money, he's going to do it regardless. If it gets him money, he's going to continue to do it. If it doesn't get him money, he's going to do it regardless because that's just what he wants. And what Vince wants, Vince gets. Vince McMahon never gave a shit about NXT. He never did. The only reason why Vince McMahon is even giving a shit about NXT now is because now we have AEW Dynamite on TNT, and now Vince has competition on his hands. Every other decision that WWE's been making this year has been influenced off of the fear of All Elite Wrestling. I've been saying this for months and months and months. It's a darker, grittier feel. It's different. You're damn right it's different, but it's not because of Vince McMahon. And he certainly does not understand that. Vince McMahon doesn't understand NXT. Vince McMahon doesn't understand his audience. Vince McMahon doesn't understand what they want. Vince McMahon doesn't understand how to run a company in 2019 as far as professional wrestling goes. If he did, then Raw and SmackDown would be a hell of a lot better, and not a lot of people would be complaining about it. Not a lot of people will be complaining about Raw and SmackDown if Vince actually knew how to run a company and Vince actually understood what wrestling fans want. Vince McMahon does not care. And I'm telling you right now, Vince McMahon was fuming. I don't care. He was fucking fuming at the sight of the ratings for All Elite Wrestling. 1.4 million versus NXT, which wasn't even 900,000. And a lot of people were saying NXT was the better show. I can certainly understand why. And who knows? Maybe it might be the better show. It could very well be the better show. I just prefer Dynamite due to the faction formation at the end of the show. But a lot of people were saying NXT was better. And you know something? I don't even blame them. People were saying NXT was the better show, but yet AEW Dynamite drew more. That right there, you know for a fact, has to burn a hole in Vince McMahon. You know for a fucking fact. That burns a hole in the old bastard. Vince McMahon, he doesn't have any desire to take over day-to-day operations with NXT? Yeah, you may say that now, but just wait. Just wait. If these ratings continue within a month, I guarantee you, within a month or even less, if these ratings continue to happen, if AEW continues to outshine NXT and get better ratings than NXT on a week-to-week basis, it's over. It's over. Vince McMahon cannot fucking stand when someone does something better than him. Vince McMahon has the biggest ego on the planet. Vince McMahon will gladly go full throttle and he will be hands-on with everything NXT if these ratings don't improve. If these ratings don't outshine All Elite Wrestling on a weekly basis, Vince McMahon will not hesitate to put Kevin Dunn, and put all of his management team smack dab in the middle of NXT and make it his show. He wouldn't hesitate. Guarantee you. I guarantee you. Everyone with a brain knows this. Vince McMahon cannot stand that someone is doing something better than him. Even if it's NXT, and Vince McMahon doesn't even care about NXT. NXT barely got any love up until now. Now we have competition. Now Vince McMahon all of a sudden cares about NXT. Why? Because NXT is going head-to-head with Dynamite. And Vince McMahon is shitting his pants thinking of what AEW Dynamite is going to become. This was just the first week. Can you imagine what they're going to be doing for the next month, for the next year, for the next decade? Vince McMahon is fucking afraid. I'm telling you, no matter if you want to believe it or not, Vince is fucking afraid. He is afraid. And when Vince is afraid, he makes snap decisions, and he will make snap decisions upon anything that has to do with the name WWE. And NXT is a part of the WWE brand, even though it doesn't feel like it, but it is a part of the WWE brand. Vince McMahon, he is going to take over NXT if he feels threatened. If these ratings continue, Vince McMahon's ego is only going to grow bigger. Vince McMahon is only going to grow saltier. Vince McMahon is going to take action. Vince McMahon is going to jump right in the middle of NXT. Vince McMahon is going to do whatever he can. Whatever he can to spike the ratings for NXT, even if it means completely killing the aura that NXT has built for itself over the last half a decade. Vince doesn't care. Vince never cared about NXT. He cares about it now because we got Dynamite. Dynamite's going to continue to get these types of ratings. If they continue to pull a 1 million plus rating every week, and possibly even bigger, it was only 600,000 people off what Raw and SmackDown average. Think about this. That rating, 1.4 million, it was only 600,000 people off of what Raw and SmackDown average every week in the modern era. That says a lot. That really does say a lot. And you know something? Sooner rather than later, Vince McMahon is going to have no choice. Vince McMahon is going to finally snap. Vince is going to snap. He's going to snap like a fucking twig in the middle of autumn. He's going to snap. And he's going to go take over NXT, kill the aura, and he's going to fight and fight and fight and fight in his way, not the right way. He's going to fight in the Vince McMahon way, not the correct way. He's going to fight in the Vince McMahon way just to spike the ratings and get bigger ratings than All Elite Wrestling. Plain and simple. These lines, everything that Triple H said here, complete fucking bullshit. He said it because he had to. He said it because he has to be politically correct. He said it because he doesn't actually want to come out and say that Vince McMahon doesn't care about NXT. He doesn't want to pretty much come out and say that Vince McMahon is afraid of AEW. He's taking this seriously. Vince McMahon is not. Or at least right now he's not. He's not taking it seriously with Raw and SmackDown, but with NXT, he's going to take it seriously because he's just that fucking egotistical. Plain and simple. My final report of the day. Mike Johnson of PW Insider reported that Jeff Hardy was apparently arrested yet again. He states, and I quote, WWE star Jeff Hardy was arrested yesterday evening in Moore County, North Carolina. I believe he reported this yesterday. Yesterday evening in Moore County, North Carolina, and charged with driving while impaired, PWInsider.com has confirmed. The Moore Police Department confirmed that Hardy was released around 11:30 p.m. last night from being incarcerated, but declined to give additional details beyond what he has been charged with, citing the fact that it is an ongoing investigation. Hardy has been out of action due to a leg injury for some time, but is slated to appear at the November 3rd Ringside Fest event in New York City. WWE eventually released a statement saying that Jeff Hardy is responsible for his own actions, and that was pretty much that. I don't know what's going on with Jeff Hardy. I really don't. Whatever it may be, he's really got to get his shit together. I really thought that Jeff Hardy was past this stage, but you know, he's really disappointing me. He really is disappointing me. I'm not sure what's going on with Jeff Hardy. I'm not sure what's going on within his family, but regardless, he needs to get his actions under control. Because if he keeps on doing this, then I guarantee you that he's going to be done. He's really going to be done, and I don't think he's going to come back. He's really got to get his shit together. That's all I really have to say about that. I don't really want to dive too much into it because I feel as though I'm talking about a superstar getting arrested for drunk driving or drugs or whatever every now and then. I feel as though I'm talking about it every so often. It's becoming almost a reoccurring thing. Like every other month, we hear about a superstar getting arrested for some incident while driving, or some incident at a party, or some fight, or whatever. They really got to get their shit together. Hardy's really got to get his shit together. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of the Lightning Flash Update. I would like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into this video. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at TheDJStorms. Follow me on Twitter at ManaCharisma. Go and check out the reality podcast, number 61, where me and Chris went over Hell in a Cell, and we talked about a lot of different topics. Link will be in the description. This Sunday, tomorrow, is WrestleMania 7, Giving It Back at Felician University. Show starts at 2 p.m. That's the pre-show and the meet and greet. And then at 3 p.m. is when bell time starts. I will be commentating alongside Ed Ruffalo. It is going to be a huge fucking event. Gunna Trash is going to be there. Bull James and Tito Santana. It is going to be a huge fucking event. Come on down. You can get tickets on Facebook. They're actually free, so if you want to, you can definitely hit up the Facebook page and see how you can get some free tickets. Also, like this video. Try and get this video to 10 likes, 15 likes. And I also want you to comment down below, what are your thoughts on the weekly shows this week? What are your thoughts on the news, rumors, and reports? Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube, because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it is the best time to be on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm DJ Storms. This has been the Lightning Flash Update. You have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys real soon.